In the last class, we discussed listening section 1 and listening section 2 of test number 6 from the IELTS official guide. Now let's finish section 3 of the same test number 6. Okay, so as we have already known that section 3 consists of conversation between two or more people, should be able to understand and answer the related questions whatever you see on screen, right? Section 3 of listening test is always a conversation between two or more people, right? So most cases you will see multiple choice questions, which are the most challenging question types of IELTS listening, because any other type of question you will be provided with 20 to 30 seconds. Of course, that's common for any question type before you listen to the track. But the content you have to remember, the content you should be able to recollect, the content you have to understand is much more in these multiple choice questions when compared to any other question type in case of this IELTS listening. So in case of multiple choice questions, please observe you will be provided with 20 to 30 seconds as usual. But please remember there are 6 questions. Each question contains 4 sentences. You should be able to understand, remember, and you should be able to recollect as you answer when you listen to the audio. As you listen to the audio, you should be able to recollect what's the information you understood from these questions, and you should be able to pick the right one. You should be able to differentiate among the answer choices as well if they are meaning similar. Okay, when you listen to the related content as the audio track progresses, right? So it's really difficult job for any student without practice, right? It requires enormous practice to master these multiple choice questions. The problem is a lot of content to understand, remember, and recollect. Okay, as you listen to the audio, you should be able to recollect what you have understood when you read these answer choices, and you should be able to differentiate answer choices among themselves, because whatever you listen in the audio, whatever the phrases or words you listen in the audio can also be part of the answer choices, right? So whatever you listen a phrase, whatever the phrase you listen in the audio may be part of a wrong answer choice that definitely deviate, distract you. So you should be able to recollect exact meaning of all the answer choices as you listen to the audio. Okay, so it requires some practice, right? So better, first one, Mike suggests the basic approach is underlining the keywords. Let's Mike suggest what Mike suggested to begin the presentation. Okay, explaining what kind of harm it is about, harm caused by the fossil fuels, pointing out biofuels were before fossil fuels, ensuring students difference between fossil fuels and biofuels. Okay, I understood this. Next, so within 20 to 30 seconds you should have underlined these keywords from all the 6 questions. You don't have much time, please remember. Karina doesn't want to discuss so this is what page number 248, correct, from the official guide. Yeah, this is 248, page 248, IELTS official guide, test number 6, section 3. So as this is the first question, I have underlined the keywords, right? Hope you are able to see the screen clearly, right? Yeah. Karina doesn't want to discuss the production of ethanol because doesn't want to discuss the production of ethanol. She don't want to discuss the production of ethanol in their lecture, in their presentation. Problems and potential of capability of biofuels. Okay, that the presentation is the discussion. The presentation is on issues and the application or advantages of biofuels. Why Karina don't want to discuss the production of ethanol? Because other students will already be with. Okay, since familiar, already familiar with that production process. There will not be time to cover more important information. Okay, if we discuss production process in the presentation, other more important information might not be discussed. Other important information that we may not be able to discuss. Okay, not be, yeah, they may not provide any accurate description. Okay, production process, they may not provide an accurate description. Okay, which source of biofuel do the students agree is least environmentally friendly? Least environmentally friendly means most harmful, right? You always listen the paraphrased version of the phrases you will see in these questions. You always listen in the audio, right? The paraphrased versions of these phrases which are actually part of the question. You can't listen the same least environmentally friendly biofuel is. You never listen as such. Okay, you can recognize but the paraphrase, you can recognize its paraphrase. So least environmentally friendly means in the audio you might listen most harmful. In the audio that might be most harmful, the test maker created question in the different manner, paraphrasing the same idea, right? Least environmentally friendly, which means most harmful. Okay, so biofuel, which biofuel is most harmful? What's the main problem facing the development of biofuel industry in the USA? Okay, the problem faced by the biofuel industry in the USA: inadequate infrastructure in transporting ethanol, not enough farmers growing biofuel crops. Okay, not enough farmers, little support, right? Karina doubts that sugarcane production in Brazil will. Okay, what happens to sugarcane production in Brazil, as per Karina? Lead to loss of wildlife habitat. Loss of wildlife habitat, create a large number of jobs in biofuel sector. Large number of jobs in biofuel sector, continue to provide enough energy for the country's needs. Enough energy for the country's needs, right? Yeah. Karina and Mike conclude that in order to increase the use of, okay, to make the people to use these biofuels in large extent, okay, what they have to do, what are the ideas? Increase use of biofuels. The price of fossil fuel must go up, right? Price go up. More machinery must be adapted to use them. Must be adapted to use them. More machinery. Production method must be more energy efficient. Production methods of this biofuel, right, must be more energy efficient. So now I have checked them. So answer the question below, not more than 2 words. Biofuel related problems. Of course, we are going to have another 20 to 30 seconds before you listen to the track based on which you can answer this 27 to 30. Before you handle 27 to 30, you are going to be provided with 20 to 30 seconds for sure. But let's, finish checking these questions also. Biofuel related problems, Mike and Karen decide to focus on the last section of their presentation. Which two sources of biofuel do Mike and Karina say are being tried out? Being tried out means checked out. Being checked. Alternative sources, right? I think we can listen to the audio. Play the audio. Just try to recall the things what you have underlined. Number 6, section 3. As I have been emphasizing, you always go with 1.2 speed whenever you practice.
look at questions 21 to 26.
Yeah. The speed is 1.1 or not? Is 1.1.
آفرینش IELTS House.
Recording 61. You will hear two students discussing their assignments. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
So we already checked out all the questions from 21 to 26. So better to directly start the audio, okay, to answer the questions.
I think we need to...
Tired, but I guess we'd better...
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Actually, I was up last night with an assignment, so yeah, I'm tired, but I guess we'd better sort this presentation out.
Well, we've done enough background reading, but I think we need to organise exactly what we're going to say about biofuels during the presentation, and the order.
I thought we could start by asking our audience what car engines were first designed to run on.
Okay, at the presentation beginning, the beginning stage. So Mike is actually suggesting so to raise a question, we would start by asking our audience what car engines were first designed to run on, fossil fuels or biofuels. So that's how the Mike has a thought to start their presentation.
During the presentation, and the order.
I thought we could start by asking our audience what car engines were first designed to run on, fossil fuels or biofuels.
Nice idea.
Yes, when most people think about cars and fuel, they think...
So as he has come up with that idea, raising a question on which fossil fuel the car engines were first designed to run on, right? She accepted, yes, that's a nice idea.
About all the carbon dioxide that's produced, but they don't realise that that wasn't always the case.
You're probably...
Right? So what's Mike's suggestion? To begin their presentation with, presentation by explaining what kind of harm is caused by fossil fuels? No, he said they are going to raise a question, right? What's that? What car engines were first designed to run on? So Mike want to suggest the first designed cars were actually run on these biofuels, right? Not on fossil fuels. That's what he want to mention indirectly. So it's not actually differentiating both fossil fuels and biofuels. No, it's not differentiating. You want to raise a question before he starts his presentation elaborately. You want to raise a question. First designed cars were designed to run on biofuels, not fossil fuels. So the right option is, it's not about harm as well, pointing out biofuels were in use before fossil fuels, right? So more clear proof line may be given in the next part of the audio. Let's continue.
Probably right. The earliest car engines ran on fuel made from corn and peanut oil, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes, she confirmed once again. The earliest car engines ran on fuel made from corn and peanut oil, didn't they? What does that mean? Corn and peanut oil means biofuels. He first mentioned, he indirectly emphasized the idea that car engines were first designed to run on biofuels by a question, and she confirmed that the earliest car engines ran on fuel made from corn and peanut oil, right? Again, she raised a question, but it is a kind of statement, in a rhetoric manner. Okay.
The manufacturers used the corn and peanut oil and turned them into a kind of very pure alcohol.
You mean ethanol?
Yes. In fact, most biofuels are still based on ethanol. Actually...
So next question, Karina doesn't want to discuss the production of, okay. because why Karina doesn't want to discuss the production of ethanol?
I've got some notes here about the process of turning plant matter into ethanol, the chemical reactions and the fermentation stages, and
It's interesting.
Okay, he want to mention most biofuels are still based on ethanol. Okay, I have got some notes here about the process of turning plant matter into this particular peanut corn into an oil, right? Into ethanol. That's the process in the production of biofuel. The chemical reactions and the fermentation stages. And okay, the Mike wanted to present the clear process how biofuel is produced, how biofuel is manufactured. But let's see what Karina is saying.
The other students would appreciate it, but different biofuels use different processes. And if we give a general description, there's a risk we'll get it wrong, and then the tutor might mark us down.
Okay, so when Mike started to explain to present a method to produce biofuels, how biofuel is generally produced, so Karina is indicating that might be interesting. So different biofuels, there are different biofuels. Different biofuels use different processes. And if we give a general description like what you are saying, what Mike wanted to present, there is a risk of we will get it wrong. Okay, whatever the general description we give may or may not be correct for all biofuel manufacturing methods. May not be exactly correct like what biofuel manufacturing methods are going on outside. So somehow you may be presenting wrong information because different biofuels are using different processes. So which means biofuel production may be occurring in different methods. So if you come up with a general method, right, that that is not always correct. That is not considered always correct because biofuel production can happen in different ways. Different biofuels use different process. So there is a risk that we will get it wrong. So obviously our score gets down by the teacher or our guide. Okay, so let's listen again what she said.
Would appreciate it, but different biofuels use different processes.
Yes, different biofuels use different processes.
And if we give a general description, there's a risk we'll get it wrong, and then the tutor might mark us down. I'd rather we focus on the environmental issues.
fair enough.
Okay, instead of explaining a general description on biofuel production process, she pointing out to focus on environmental issues due to these biofuels. So let's answer the second question. Karina doesn't want to discuss the production of ethanol because other students will already be familiar. It's not about other students who are familiar. She mentioned we may get it wrong. If we present a general description about the process of manufacturing ethanol, that might be wrong because different biofuels use different methods. It's not about there will not be time to cover. No, it's not done. They may not provide accurate description. Yes, because different biofuel production have a different ways, right? Different biofuels use different methods. So they may not provide an accurate description. May not provide accurate description is somehow paraphrased is that we will get it wrong. Not accurate, get it wrong. Right? Yeah.
So, the main plants that are used for biofuel production now are sugarcane, corn,
And canola.
Which source of biofuel do the students agree in least environmentally friendly? Okay.
Of all of them, canola is probably the least harmful because machines that use it don't produce.
So she said canola would be least harmful. Of all of them, canola is probably the least harmful because machines that use it
It's as much carbon monoxide.
don't produce as much carbon monoxide. Okay, they won't produce much carbon monoxide, so canola can be considered least harmful. Let's see, canola would be is correct or not. What Mike says, let's understand.
Sugarcane seems to be controversial. It doesn't require as much fertilizer as corn does to grow, but when they burn the sugarcane,
But the question is actually asking most harmful. But Karina said canola is the least harmful because machines. So it's not at all the correct option. You can eliminate right away because she clearly said
Canola is probably the least harmful because
but we
machines
need
that
most
use
harmful.
it don't produce as much carbon monoxide.
sugarcane seems to be controversial. It doesn't require as much fertilizer as corn does to grow, but when they burn the sugarcane fields, that releases loads of greenhouse gases.
Yeah,
Okay, he mentioned that when you burn sugarcane, what he said, when you burn the sugarcane fields, that releases loads of greenhouse gases. So it's might be most harmful. That might be giving the answer for the question. Let's see what they say about corn. That's the left one, right?
yes, but some critics have suggested that the production of corn ethanol uses up more fossil fuel energy than the biofuel energy it eventually produces. For that reason, I'd say it was more harmful to the environment.
I see what you mean. You're probably
Okay, she said, but some critics have suggested that corn production, you know, so production of corn ethanol uses up more fossil fuel energy than the biofuel energy it eventually produces. Okay, to produce the ethanol from corn, right, you require more fossil fuel energy. Maybe you know to produce corn ethanol, we may have to use diesel or petrol to run the machines, right? So we can say production of corn ethanol use up more fossil fuel energy than the biofuel energy it eventually produces. So for that reason, I would say it was more harmful to the environment. More harmful. We need that canola, right? Sorry, corn. Production of corn ethanol. Production of corn ethanol. Ethanol through corn. Production of ethanol through corn. Okay, uses more fossil fuel energy than it produces the energy, biofuel energy. So for that reason, she emphasized corn is the most harmful. But let's see whether Mike agrees with it or not. If Mike agrees, the corn is going to be the right answer.
right. It's interesting how everyone saw the biofuel industry as the answer to our energy problems, but in some ways, biofuels have created new problems.
Well, in the USA, I wouldn't say that farmers are having.
So what he says, has he agreed to that or not? The topic has jumped to somewhere.
Fuel industry as the answer to our energy problems, but in some ways, biofuels have created new problems. The sugarcane fields, that releases loads of greenhouse gases.
Yes, but some critics have suggested that the production of corn ethanol uses up more fossil fuel energy than the biofuel energy it eventually produces. For that reason, I'd say it was more harmful to the environment.
I see what you mean. You're probably right.
Yes, she agreed. I mean, Mike agreed what he said. So ultimately, corn is the one, the both agreed the corn is the most harmful. And again, he started discussing another issue.
It's interesting how everyone saw the biofuel industry as the answer to our energy problems, but in some ways, biofuels have created new problems.
Well, in the USA, I wouldn't say that farmers are having.
So what's the main problem facing the development of biofuel industry? Okay.
Problems, the biofuel industry for them has turned out to be really profitable.
I think, though, that even in the USA, ethanol is still only used as an additive to gasoline or petrol. The problem is that it still has to be transported by trucks or rail because they haven't built any pipelines to move it.
Okay, I think this would be the proof line. The problem faced by the biofuel industry in the USA is, uh, the biofuel still has to be transported by trucks or rail because they haven't built any pipeline to move it. They haven't built any pipeline to move the transportation. Definitely increases the cost. The biofuel, thereby, biofuel, thereby increasing the biofuel cost for the customers, right? So what's the issue? Inadequate infrastructure. Yeah, this could be the answer. Not enough farmers. It's not about farmers. Little government support. It's not even. A is the right option because there is a clear idea presented by the Mike that that's still being transported by trucks or rail because they haven't built any pipelines to move it. No better infrastructure to move to transport these biofuels in the USA. That's the problem. Okay, so if they move by any other means which cost effective, that overall cost of biofuel gets down.
Once they do, it'll be cheaper and the industry might move forward.
Yes, what he's saying, once they build any pipeline, okay, what happens? Biofuel is going to be cheaper and that biofuel industry might move forward. Okay, it's not government support. It's not about little government support. There is no suitable transportation facility for that biofuel. Ethanol. Ethanol is the main ingredient in biofuel, right? Yeah.
That'll have to happen one day. At least the government are in favour of biofuel development.
Yes, but Brazil's probably in the lead as far as biofuels are concerned.
Okay, there are other governments always support the biofuel. One of such countries is Brazil. Okay, Brazil probably in the lead as far as biofuels are concerned.
They've got to the point where they don't need to import any oil now.
Okay, as they are using biofuels, they are in a state of not asking for any fuel from any country. They don't need to import any oil now because they are using biofuels. Brazil, that's why Brazil is in the lead as far as biofuel consumption is concerned.
Which is great. And the industry in Brazil employs a huge number of people. But is it sustainable? I mean, as the population...
The question is, Karina doubts. What her doubt? Is it sustainable? She emphasized that there is no doubt about the job creation. More number of people are going to get jobs. Industry in Brazil employs a huge number of people. That's cool. But the question is asking, what is Karina's doubt in the sugarcane production in Brazil? So large number of jobs is not the doubt the Karina has made. Right. There is no doubt on jobs creation. She clearly emphasized. So the answer must have doubt. What kind of doubt Karina actually posed? Whether is it sustainable or not? That's the doubt.
But is it sustainable? I mean, as the population grows and there are more vehicles on the roads and there's more machinery, surely they can't depend so much on sugarcane.
She feels that population obviously is growing and more vehicles can be seen on roads. For production of biofuels, we require more machinery, right? More fuel is required, more machinery. So the people cannot depend so much on sugarcane now. The biofuel industry cannot depend on so much on sugarcane, right? So population is growing. The country, The country cannot depend so much on sugarcane because more machinery, more for more vehicle, they have to produce so much of biofuel. So to produce the biofuel, they should be able to depend on so much of sugarcane. They have to produce more sugarcane to produce more biofuel. So that's why she is mentioning: is it really sustainable? Is it really reliable and continuable? Will it continue in the same momentum, the same quality, or not?
At some point, there has to be a limit on how much land can be used for sugarcane production.
This is the limitation that she has come up with. There is a problem that how many acres of land you can allocate for sugar cane production to produce this biofuel. The biofuel is mainly from sugarcane. You have to produce more sugarcane because population is growing, more biofuel is required. So how many acres can you allocate for the production of sugarcane to produce the ethanol as a biofuel?
Certainly, if you want to preserve natural habitats and native wildlife.
So how many acres can you allocate for sugarcane production if you really want to produce more biofuel, and definitely disturb the natural habitats and native wildlife, right? So what's her doubt basically? Is it really sufficient for all the people or not? Can we produce sufficient biofuel for entire country, for entire Brazil country? So it's not about wildlife and all. So if they want to produce more sugar cane for the biofuel production, more land is required. If the land is grabbed for the industrial purposes, obviously wildlife and natural habitats gets disturbed. Okay, but what's her doubt? Doubt is it sustainable? Is it really sufficient for all the people or not? Continue to provide enough energy for the countries? Yes, as the population is growing, they may not be able to produce biofuel, because if they want to produce sufficient biofuel for all the people, more number of acres of land is necessary for sugarcane that can disturb the natural habitats and native wildlife. So the doubt is, do they really continue to provide enough energy for the country needs? Right? Let's listen once again the proof line.
Much on sugarcane. At some point, there has to be a limit on how much land can be used for sugarcane production. Certainly, if you want to preserve natural habitats and native wildlife.
Right. At some point, there has to be limit on how much land can be used for sugarcane production. Right. So as the population grows, more biofuel is required, more sugarcane required, more land is required to produce the sugarcane. That may not be possible. That definitely disturb the natural habitats and native wildlife. That's her doubt. Is it really sustainable? Can it be sufficient for all entire country Brazil as the days pass on?
I think that whatever problems Brazil's facing now, the same will be true for any country. You have to weigh up the pros and cons.
Well, we probably won't see an increase in biofuel use. I mean, they won't. We probably won't see an increase in biofuel use. I mean, they won't replace fossil fuels until we can find ways to produce them cheaply and quickly and with less cost to the environment.
Okay, so even in the Brazil or in any other country, biofuel production cannot be increased because if the production increases, the cost is also increasing. The land allocation must also be increased. That can disturb the native habitats and wildlife. So they cannot increase the biofuel production, okay, until biofuel is produced so cheaply and quickly and less cost to the environment. If biofuel production is cheap and that can be done quickly and less damage to the environment, then the production of biofuel is going to be increased drastically. That's what Karina is emphasizing on. Okay, so what Mike can conclude order in turn. So that must be cheap. That must be cheap and less damage to the environment. Price of fossil fuel, no. Machinery to be adapted, it's not about machinery. Methods to be energy efficient. Yes, is the best. Right, what she said. So as long as biofuel are produced cheaply and quickly and with less damage to the environment, fossil fuel usage is going to be there. To replace fossil fuel, the biofuel must be produced cheaply, quickly, and with less disadvantages to the environment. Then biofuel industry grows, right?
We probably won't see an increase in biofuel use. I mean, they won't replace fossil fuels until we can find ways to produce them cheaply and quickly and with less cost to the environment.
Making sure they require minimal energy to produce.
Exactly. And in a way, that means they have to cost less than fossil fuels, certainly when you're filling up your car.
Yes, and whatever other kind of engines use fossil fuels at the moment.
So from 27 to 30, the first two questions are biofuel related problems that they have to focus on to be kept in the last section of presentation, right? Next, 29 30, what are the alternatives?
On.
Well,
All right, so in the last section of the presentation, what problems are we focusing on?
Well, we've already had a look at different types of pollution in the first section, so we can leave that.
So he has come up with to highlight the different types of possible pollution to the environment. He's mentioning we already had a look at different types of pollution in the first section, so we can leave that out. Okay, he has an idea. Okay, we already uh, had spoken about the different types of pollution in the first section of the presentation, right? So what is he
out. But the biggest issue related to biofuels is that land is now being used to grow biofuel crops, and that's contributing to global hunger.
Yeah, he has come up with the problem, right? So to grow more and more biofuel, to increase the biofuel production, the more land is being allocated, that definitely reduces the food production that may contribute to global hunger. Not more than towards the, he said, that definitely leads to global hunger. Global hunger. So he has started, we have already discussed pollution in the first section of presentation, so no need to discuss again. More land is allocated for the production of biofuels so that the production of food gets reduced, that can lead to global hunger. That's the problem. Next.
Indeed. It doesn't seem right we're using corn to run cars when people can't afford to buy it to eat. Yes, let's talk
She
about
just
that.
iterated. If you can't afford to buy it to eat, if you can't afford to buy the corn to eat, okay, and using corn to run cars, so please observe, you can't buy the corn to eat, but you may have to buy the biofuel which is produced from corn to run your cars. Is doesn't seem correct at all, right?
Fuel crops, and that's contributing to global hunger.
Indeed. It doesn't seem right we're using corn to run cars when people can't afford to buy it to eat. Yes, let's talk about that. The other thing is that in some countries, the way that biofuel crops are grown and harvested still produces a great deal of pollution, really damaging to the atmosphere.
Okay, she again started speaking about the pollution. Like the other thing is that in some countries, the way the biofuel crops are grown and harvested still produce a great deal of pollution, really damaging it's really damaging the way they are following to produce the biofuels. So we have to talk about it.
Okay, that's definitely an issue we should look at.
That's definitely he assured. So they are going to talk about this one also in the last section, right? So what's that? What he said? Great deal of pollution. So, but we can't write more than 2 words. So let's write simply
People
pollution.
can't afford to buy it to eat. Yes, let's talk about that. The other thing is that in some countries, the way that biofuel crops are grown and harvested still produces a great deal of pollution, really damaging to the atmosphere.
Okay, that's definitely an issue we should look at.
Let's not finish on a negative note, though.
Right. Which two sources of biofuel to make being tried out? Other alternatives.
Why don't we talk about the potential new sources of biofuel? So rather than corn and sugarcane, what other plants could be used?
Okay, she comes up with a question. What are the other alternatives that we can use as biofuel sources to produce it instead of these harmful, production method through corn and sugar cane, right? So what are the possible new sources of biofuel rather than corn and sugarcane, as they are really harmful to the environment? What other plants could be used? That's what she question asked.
Good. Some companies are exploring the possibility of using wood and seeing how that can be used to make ethanol.
That's it.
Yes, and algae is another possibility.
Making use of wood or not?
You can grow it in any water and it absorbs pollutants too.
I read that. And grasses, exploring the possibility of using wood and seeing how that can be used to make ethanol.
Yes, and algae is another possibility.
Algae is another possibility. Algae has already been mentioned.
You can grow it in any water and it absorbs pollutants too.
I read that. And grasses, they're another plant that researchers are investigating as a biofuel.
Okay, grasses, another plant that researchers are investigating as a biofuel. So last one, grass or grasses. Both can be correct.
And these kind of plants aren't used as food, which is why...
That's it, buddies.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So let's move on to section 4 in the new video. Let me close this here.